Limited. It's the third in the series, and we are glad you are able to join us. We're a management consulting firm helping businesses to strategically identify growth areas and harness them in order to achieve sustainability. I'd like to emphasize that our focus for this year's webinar series is strategies for sustainability. This is because we know how critical it is to keep your businesses going concerns even on uncertain times. My name is Onyeka Chiudensi. I'm the team lead, special projects and conferences. I'll be your host today with my colleague Adobe Ume, the team lead of our economic analytics business unit as co-host. The managing director of Our Perspectives Limited, Mrs. Edmond Hansen, is also here with us. She may be joining us in the discussion at some point. To ensure our time here is meaningful today, we established some housekeeping to guide us. I'll just share that with you now. So our chat room is enabled. Questions, please kindly share your questions with us in the chat room, your comments, your questions, respond to them as we progress in the discussion. We've also put off your videos. That's to enable us minimize distraction. So please try not to put them on, and let's just have a very interesting discussion as we go on. Also, would advise that you actively listen. We're sure we're going to have very good discussion here, and we'll be sharing very vital information to enable you make your businesses grow as it should. We'll be sharing the recording from this event today, later on after this event. So we'll be sharing that on our Facebook and our YouTube. So we'd ask that you go back and assess them later on, just in case you miss any part or you want to also look at it again and again and ensure that you learn or you get everything that was discussed. Participation is very important. So like we have said before, please do well to send us your comments, your questions in the chat room. We're also broadcasting live on Facebook. So if you're not able to join us via Zoom, you can also join us on Facebook. Like we have said before, do well to drop your questions and your comments in the chat box or in the comment section in Facebook. So we'll be launching a poll now to test your company's disposition to innovation and how it's being applied. Please do well to give us your views. We'll just give you 2 minutes to do that. Okay, please, if you have not shared your views with us on the poll, we'd ask that you kindly do so. We're about to round up with this, so please share your views with us. We'll soon be sharing the results. For those of us just joining us, we're just taking a poll now to test your company's disposition on innovation and how it's been applied. So we just ask that you kindly give us your views on the poll. We'll just take 1 more minute to do that and we'll get on with the discussion. Thanks very much for those who have shared their views with us. Appreciate it. We'll be sharing the results as soon as we conclude with that. Today we are discussing a very important topic, innovating for the future. Our key discussant for today is Ms. Furo Apiafi. Furo holds a master's degree from University College London and a bachelor's degree from the University of Nottingham, both in chemical engineering. She has over 5 years of work experience in financial services with roles ranging from asset management to innovation management. In her role as innovation manager at Stanbic IBTC Bank, she has a track record of creating and programs, working closely with clients and business units to co-create effective solutions. Okay. Businesses around the world have been adversely impacted by the pandemic, and to remain in business, it's critical that they innovate or die, as the saying goes. Now, according to PwC's 23rd Annual Global CEO Survey, which involved 1,551 chief executives in 83 territories, more than half of the CEOs were sure that global GDP would decline. And what is clouding the view from the top is uncertainty. So if we want to remain in business, we cannot ignore the harsh implications of uncertainty. The current global situation calls for different approach. Businesses need to innovate or become extinct. There are lots of concerns for CEOs and leaders at this time regarding how to keep income flowing in and then ensuring sustainability. This is where innovation comes to play, and that's the crux of the matter. So I would ask Furo to come on board now and let's get started. So let me ask you, Furo. Innovation can appear complex and far-fetched for most businesses and entrepreneurs. How would you define innovation? I know you have a presentation you would like to share with us. So, I think you should just go ahead and share your slides now so that we can get the discussion going.
Okay, so good afternoon. Pleasure to catch you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So, I mean, I thought that we could just start the session by simply defining what innovation is. Um, and if you go back to the dictionary, innovation isn't as complex as people like to think it is. It's actually quite simple. So it's as simple as a new method or idea of a product, or even an improvement on an existing product, service, or idea. It's innovation. Innovation, it can have change in the range of, say, small minute update to something, and then up to the other extreme, which is like a complete transformation of a business model or product offering, right? um, when you consider innovation, there are three main things that I like to focus on in looking at innovation, because I'm particularly biased to innovation powered by technology. So in terms of innovation, I like to start with the humans that you're building the solution for. So is it whatever you're thinking about, the product, the service, how does it impact your end user? So is it desirable to your users? Are you I'm not sure what happened to my next but yeah, so the solution looking at this impact your users first and foremost, right? And then you then do the work of looking at the technology available in the market. So what you're trying to build, do you have the technology existing in-house in your business, or do you have to pay to get access to additional technology? And then ultimately, when you've considered all different ways you can serve your new customers, you then need to come back and look at, okay, if I match this need for the customers and technology, how do I actually make money out of this idea? You know, how does it save costs for my business, or does it, increase my income streams as a business person?
Okay, so if I get you correctly, you're saying that innovation is hinged on three things: humans, the technology, and then whether that innovation is viable. All right, so
Yes.
I would just ask, are there sets of skills required for individuals and teams to be able to innovate?
I mean, so I wouldn't say that there are particular skills required for innovation, because innovation is it's a culture, really. So when we talk about innovation, I think the most important thing in most organizations is creating a culture that enables innovation. So I typically like to encourage that, in saying that your organization is innovative, these are like three characteristics that people or your organization should be known for. So are people in your organization generally curious? And when there's a problem, do people, use Google to search like how it's being solved in other places, or do they ask their colleagues? Humility, yeah, like it's so important, because we don't have all the answers to all the questions ourselves. So you must be willing to ask for help where required. And then I think one of the most important things, big website that you're building. Sorry, it's not necessarily some big app, some big, it could be as simple as if you're a restaurant owner, and you are opening a new location, you understand that beyond just serving food to people, you are creating an experience for people. So when you understand the type of people that gravitate towards your establishment, you then start to consider things like, okay, is it families that come to me the most? And then you start building around that. So if it's families that come to your restaurant the most, then do you have a play area to entertain the children while parents are trying to eat, or do you have like high chairs available so that children can sit down comfortably as well and partake in the meal? So it's just going that step to actually understand who your customers are.
Okay, before we go ahead, some of our participants are requesting that you be a bit more audible. So
Okay.
you can just raise your voice a bit more. Okay.
All right.
So it's important. One key information I took away from what you just said is that people, individuals, teams need to be more curious as to how they go about solving issues. All right, so how can businesses encourage innovation with their teams, especially in these uncertain times? How businesses encourage innovation?
Okay. Again, culture. I mean, when you look at a lot of organizational structures, you'll find that while a lot of structures have been put in place to encourage, business continuity and providing the required support for customers, oftentimes when you look a little closer, you find that these processes typically impede on how customers are being served. So, I mean, if you look at this organogram, it might be, if you look at most organizations, these exist at different levels, So for an SME, for instance, it could be the founder themselves that is the chief idea killer, because, you built this organization and you feel like you know the product you're offering best and nobody can offer it better than you can. So if any of your employees that is actually dealing with your customers comes to you and tells you, oh, Masa, this is the feedback I'm getting, you sort of take that. And it's natural because we're defensive about our ideas, but then we must try to move past that, because that is the main thing that stifles innovation. So having a no culture. Then in bigger organizations, you then see things like the VPs of status quo and stay the course. So they've crafted their 10, 20-year strategy, and we must follow that strategy. There's no deviation. Technology is changing, but no, our strategy is still paramount and still most important. So you find that your strategy that might be obsolete, but because you're not willing to take time out to review as the times are changing, you're building solutions that, yes, may have been relevant 5 years ago when you crafted that strategy. But then by the time they market, you find that and then you're stuck with a solution that, serves nobody. And then when you look at you see people like the directors of analysis paralysis, who, for every new idea that comes out, they'll analyze left, analyze right, come up with metrics about why it can't work, or if it can work, but these are the problems that will come out of it, and then that further stifles innovation. So I just like to emphasize on culture, because ultimately, if you have the right culture in place, then people will be willing to ideas and share with management or share with their teammates, and then that is how the team or the organization in general will become gradually more nimble and more open to innovation. Another point I just like to make is when people typically think about innovation, we've all heard all these success stories of the Netflixes and the Airbnbs, and because we're typically the consumers, by the time it's getting to us, it's like a fully cooked solution. Or, although some people might be early birds and get on the bandwagon pretty quickly, but by the time most of us get on these platforms, they're fully formed, So an important piece of work in terms of understanding your customers is leveraging the data that you have about these customers, because the data will guide you through all the uncertainty that your organization is facing, right? And I just like to encourage everyone that innovation is not a straightforward thing, it's a process and it takes time, and there'll be mistakes along the way. But for as long as you're, you keep your customer as your true north, and typically organizations manage to maneuver whatever challenges that come up.
Okay, so if I hear you correctly, if care is not taken, a business owner or a business really can be their own impediments when it comes to innovation. Yeah, so that's something to keep in mind, not to especially be the one who is overanalyzing things, but to ensure that you're moving with the times. Now that's very important for all of us to remember. Okay, so if you're just joining us from Facebook, we've been discussing innovating for the future, and our key discussant today is Ms. Furo Apiafi. She is an innovation manager at Stanbic IBTC and has over 5 years of work experience in financial services. So please kindly share your questions and comments with us. We would attend to them as we go on. We're expecting your questions and your comments. We've been seeing some of your comments, but would also want you to ask us some questions. While we're waiting for that, we'll just go ahead and continue with the discussion. So let me ask you, Furo, what should the procedure be when innovating to enable businesses maximize opportunities? What would be the procedure?
Okay, I might sound like a broken record, but it starts with the customers, you know. So this quote by Eric Rice, the author of the Lean Startup, summarizes it for me. If you're building something that nobody wants, it doesn't matter if you're doing it on time and on budget. So in terms of having a procedure for innovation, the most important thing is having like a laid down process, right? So you start by engaging your customers. You have like an innovation life cycle in place. So start with talking to your customers, understanding the customer needs, and then looking within your business to see what resources, what assets you have as a business to start to solve these needs. And then taking a broader look to then say, look, in my industry, these are the things that are coming up that I can adopt as a business to help me solve these customer problems. I like to emphasize on businesses taking a deeper look, because if you leave it to the customers, they'll lay down all their wants with you. But as the expert in your field, it is then your job to say, okay, these are the things that the customer the customers say that they want, right? If I look at my industry, what are the things that are available to solve these problems? And then also dig deep and find out, so these problems that customers say that they have, are they actually spending money, or are they going through any inconvenience to solve these problems? Because typically, if it's a need that customers just say that they have, but they're not, currently going through any inconvenience or putting money down to solve these problems, then it might not be something that you to build a business model around. So it's important to engage customers, but then, as a business, have a set process in-house to then take on these ideas or problems from customers and then do some ideation in-house. So like, I'm an advocate for design thinking as an approach for building products for customers. So take out time, engage stakeholders. So beyond your business, engage with sometimes your competition, engage with people that are in your ecosystem, but might be within your business ecosystem, but might be in a different, playing in the market in a slightly different way. So if you're a restaurant, perhaps your supplier,
participants on Facebook, and those who are joining us from YouTube, create ideas around what your customers really want. Okay, so let me now ask, what are the innovative ways businesses can manage their operations to ensure they remain afloat and thrive even in these times?
Okay, so in my view, the second job of innovation is ensuring that you're building a sustainable and profitable business model. So I think typically people look at it, when people think about innovation, they think that there's a huge cost required to be put up, to be able to change your business model or to be able to play in a new space altogether. But it's important to note that at the beginning, I defined it as considering, what your customers want, but then also understanding what technology is there to support you building that feature or product for your customers, and then also taking into consideration whether or not how this impacts your business. So does it make money for the business, or does this reduce costs for the business? And again, like, part of the reason why I emphasize on, engaging with customers is because as you're building a product, the cost required increases as further down the line. So if you make mistakes early on in the life cycle of building a new product, it is easier to correct if you've tested with customers and you get feedback, and it is that, look, this thing, as you have put it, is not going to work for me. It is easier to correct those, easier and cheaper to correct those mistakes in the beginning, and therefore minimizing your risk and minimizing your waste of money as a business, right? So it's important that engaging with customers, it like helps save business a lot of money. And then as you go along the process, you'll find that it gets a lot easier and a lot clearer once you've done the hard work of actually engaging all your stakeholders pretty early on. And by customers, I don't just mean like your end users, increases as like other stakeholders in the ecosystem. So like I gave the example of the restaurant, for instance. It could be your suppliers, it could be, I don't know, the people that pick up your waste. Like, there are different stakeholders that you can engage with that will just help minimize your risk by, pointing out potential pitfalls that you can then solve for pretty early on in the process. And that is like a good way to, ensure that you're not wasting too much of your resources as a business because you want to explore a new product or a new service.
Okay, so would it be an emphatic yes or no to allocate resources in these times? So everybody's trying to hoard what they have in terms of their resources. So would it be okay? Would you advise that SMEs and businesses really in general, would you advise that they allocate resources to innovation in this time?
I think that, ultimately, I'm not in everyone's business, but I feel like it's very important to understand that, like, the world is constantly evolving. Your customers are constantly evolving. The way customers want to be served is constantly evolving. So it's a situation where you either move along and evolve with your customers, or you find that, you're providing a service that's, while nice, might not, stand the test of time. So yes, it's important to, allocate some resources to innovation. It might not be that your entire business halts and you change direction. It could be, exploring things while running your existing business.
Okay. Let me welcome those who have just joined us, and I'll just reiterate so that you catch up with us. We've been discussing innovating for the future, and our key discussant today is Furo Apiafi. She's an innovation manager at Stanbic IBTC. If you're joining us on Facebook and YouTube, please, we're asking that you share with us your questions and your comments. We'll do well to cater to them. Now, we'll be taking some questions from our participants, and one that I see here, I'll just read it out. At what point in the journey of innovating a new product or service would you consider putting effort into marketing?
In terms of putting effort into marketing, I would say don't be afraid to go to market with an unfinished product. But obviously, this then depends on your sector. Because I find that organizations, wait until they spend 3 years cooking this product that they think is going to change the world. And then by the time they launch it, you're then having to spend a lot more on marketing because it might not really meet the customer brief. So yeah, it doesn't really help the business. I would say, like, if you have a product that, if you have a version of the product that meets the customer's basic needs. So for instance, So okay, for instance, with the car analogy, right, with Henry Ford, if he had a skateboard, so a skateboard would get a customer from point A to point B. It's a weird analogy, but a skateboard would get a customer from point A to point B, and it will fully meet their need. And then you can launch with that and then get feedback that, oh, okay, while I'm on the skateboard, actually I get tired, so I want to lean on something. And then gradually, continuously give the customer solutions that meet their need end to end, without compromising on spending millions and a lot of time to, build the solution. So I'd say marketing should start, as soon as you have a product that works fully end to end, and then you can spend more time, gathering feedback and insights to then keep improving the product along the way.
Okay, thanks very much, Furo. And let me just quickly add, of course, we know that marketing is not just about the selling. So when we start marketing, the process of marketing, it starts with even finding out what the needs are. Like you said before, it's important that we engage stakeholders, not necessarily. So, like Furo has said, it has to be something that works for the customers, clients, end to end. Okay, so we'll just go ahead. Let me now ask you again, as regards innovation, are there rules for government or regulatory agencies in terms of infrastructure and other related structures that can support SMEs and businesses to innovate?
Okay. So before I jump to government, I just wanted to share a bit about managing uncertainty for businesses. So there are different ways to do innovation. And so this presentation just shows like the innovation ecosystem, as I would like to call it. So as a business, you can play around with, optimizing existing products and assets while you're also doing incremental and totally new stuff. So this is part of how you like manage your uncertainty as a business in terms of building new products and services. Additionally, in terms of when you consider innovation, I like to stress on data, and leveraging a lot of free stuff that we have out there. So as a business, you have the social media is such a powerful tool now. So how present is your business on social media? And it's not just about being on social media, it's about being on the right platforms for your type of business. So are your customers mostly on Facebook, or are they on Instagram, or they're on Twitter, or are your customers just the type of people that are okay with, broadcast on WhatsApp, or, so it's very, very important to understand where your customers are and put in the effort to make yourself very present within, that platform. And then data is such an important element, in the world today. It's no longer an excuse, I would say, to be building products that customers don't want, because typically as a business, if you run for even if it's 3 months and you have your service offering out there, you will find that so if you have, I'll keep using restaurant because I feel like it's the most relatable thing. But if you have a restaurant and on your menu you have 20 items, and then you find that people are only ordering 4 items, and then maybe once a month you have 1 or 2 people that order the other things, then as a restaurant owner, it's a no-brainer for me. It's time to review my menu and focus on the things that are bringing value to the customer and bringing business to me, right? So there are lots of tools out there for you to use to manage your customer relationships. So there's Wave apps. There are a couple of others that basically can help you, like you can create your customers on these apps and store like information around their purchasing habits. So at the end of the month or quarter or year, you can then sit down and look at, okay, how did my business do? Which product brought in the most money? Which service brought in the most money? Which costs, hits me the most? You don't have to manually maybe go through your bank statements and do that sort of reconciliation work anymore. There are lots of tools out there that will make that whole process a lot easier and a lot more seamless for you as a business owner. And then now if I jump to the role of government, I think that ultimately the role of government is just to provide an enabling environment. The government, beyond creating an enabling environment, they don't really, there's not there's not much room for them. They're not going to come into your sector and do the work for you, So they create the enabling environment by making it perhaps easier to register your business, easier to understand the process of getting your licenses as a business owner, and then also ensuring that there's fairness. So there anti-competition or anti-monopoly regulation in your sector, so that it's not that there's only one person there that's owns the entire sector and then sort of stifles every other person in the sector. And then there are other roles sort of setting the standards so that we ensure that you're meeting customers' needs, but you're meeting them safely and timely. And then another role that government can play is around spending on research and development. So we have a lot of research institutes across Nigeria that are doing some really cool stuff. But ultimately, the real thing is, how are these solutions going to achieve scale? So there's a lot of research going on into farming. There's a lot of cool stuff going on at IITA, for instance. So the government's role is to provide funds for the research and development efforts, and then also leverage that to create an enabling environment for people to then pick these research findings and build on the findings from this research. And then I think the final thing I'll just land on is building the relevant skill sets. So if you look at Nigeria today, there are a lot of givebacks or community support. There's a lot of community support coming from government, but in terms of, they're giving bikes here today and they're giving rice there tomorrow. But I feel like there needs to be more focus in terms of building the skill sets for the future, because you're seeing more and more as the world becomes more and more technologically inclined. The skill set that we need to have on a daily are, developers, quality assurance testers for solution for apps and websites and stuff, data analysts to crunch the big data for the big corporates, data scientists to do the cool stuff of predicting where your market is going and predicting when your customer is about to leave you because of bad service and all of that. So there's a need to invest a lot in building the required skill set for the future within the country.
Okay. So we have a question here from our participants, and I'll just read that out to you. When you have a product or service innovation idea, can you talk about the process for engaging with stakeholders to do it? So I'll just repeat myself. Or when you have a product or service innovation idea, can you talk about the process for engaging stakeholders to do design thinking?
Okay. So there are many ways to engage with customers. The easiest one is to just play around with surveys. So everybody's on WhatsApp, right? So create a survey using some of the free tools, SurveyMonkey, Typeform. There are a number of them out there. Create a short survey. There's Google Forms as well, and send that out to your network. So you have to make sure you spend some time in crafting those questions. And I'll share a book a bit later about how to ask customers the right questions that you can probably read. So send out a survey and gather mass feedback. And then in those surveys, typically you can ask people to provide contact information if they want to be part of a deeper dive into what the problem you're trying to solve is. So from doing your surveys, you then, within your team, think about, okay, these are the problems that are coming out of this survey that we've run. These are the pain points that are being repeated over and over by, people that we have completed the survey. And then you start to think, okay, as a team, what can we do to solve this problem that keeps coming up? And at that point, when you have maybe a vague idea of how you want to solve it, and you looked at, okay, you've done the business model canvas work and you've seen, okay, this is the idea, this is how it will impact the customer, this is how customers will access it, this is the technology required, And this is how us as a business will either make money or it will save cost for us. When you've done that work, you can do a simple, like, so I'm biased to like technology solutions, so my responses will be skewed towards that. But if you want to give me like a specific sector, I can try to tailor that. But so you can do like a prototype of that solution. So it's a technology solution, prototype of that, and then have some of those customers that told you that they wanted to be involved in a deeper dive. You can contact them, and then, I mean, before COVID, you would have like a session where you go and meet these clients and test it out with them. But I'm sure some people will still be open to engaging, or you can do like remote demos and get real-time feedback from customers as well. So, I mean, I'll give an example with like Netflix, for instance. What they do a lot of is A/B testing on their website. So if you go on the website today, you see a specific landing page, and you can go later in the night and you see a different type of landing page. All they're simply doing is they're testing out how customers respond to different type of landing pages, and they're capturing the data and seeing, okay, when you place a movie at the top left-hand corner, people are more inclined to, watch that movie, and think little things like that, truly impact customers' ability, customers' tendency to, buy your product or accept your product. And yeah, so after you've spoken to customers, it's important to then sit down and ideate and do further research. Yeah.
Okay. So there's another one here, and I'll just read that out. How do I spot opportunities for innovation?
So I'll say it depends. So a lot of the time, I feel like innovation lies in the most boring stuff. So one way to spot innovation perhaps is in repetitive tasks. So if you find that in your process, if you find that in your process, you are, the process in terms of serving your customers, there are particular things that your team is repetitively doing. There are ways that you can, that's like a point that you can consider to, change. So I know that in financial services, for instance, there's a lot of use of robots now. So a lot of tasks that people would have to typically copy information from one folder to the next folder so somebody else can do something with it. Now there are a lot of people are exploring robotic process automation, so that there are, computer codes that have been programmed so that the files are automatically, once they're dropped in one folder, there's a program that runs that picks up from that folder and drops it up in the other place. So I'll say in terms of spotting innovation, it can lie in the most boring things. And then even in your day-to-day life, like, what are the problems that you have? Start with yourself. What are the problems that you have? What are the things that you complain about often? And see how you can explore solving that.
Okay. Let me now quickly add this. There's another question here, so I'll just read that out. What is the best way to disrupt the market?
The best way to disrupt a market, honestly, is to truly serve the customer. Because a lot of businesses struggle with serving customers, and the balance between serving customers and serving yourself as a business, right? If you look at, sometimes when you look at the problems that customers want to solve, it can seem very complex, and it might seem like there's a lot of work to be done, there's a lot of technology to be incorporated or something. But it's taking that risk and saying, look, I understand that I have validated and I understand that this is a true need in the market, and you spend the time to actually solve it in the simplest form. So if you look at products that are changing or that have caused disruption recently, all they did was take customers' needs and provide it in the simplest format. So with Netflix, everybody wants to watch stuff online, and everybody was, spending time on their laptops watching it on all these sites that have illegal content. and watching poor quality, and all they did was come into the market and offer it fantastic quality and at a reasonable price. And you see that everybody's on Netflix. Now you're seeing that the traditional TV service providers are having a partner with Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime to now have their content on their TVs as well, because they're finding that they're losing their customer base, right?
Okay, thank you very much, Furo. Let me welcome all of those who are joining us now. We've been discussing innovating for the future, and our key discussant for today is Furo Apiafi. Furo is the manager at innovation manager at Stanbic IBTC Bank. We've been having very interesting discussion here, and I want to thank our participants who are making this discussion interactive. We're seeing your comments. So one of our participants here agrees that innovation comes from a posture of seeking to provide solutions to problems. And you can't just run away from that. If you're going to innovate, if you're going to disrupt the markets, then you really would have to serve the customer, like Furo have said. So we have questions coming in, and I'll just read that out again. How do I know if my idea is good, and how can I get other people to align behind my idea? How do I do that? Okay, you want me to come back with that?
No, I've heard you. So I think how do I know how do I get other people on board? That's the question, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So it goes back to customer testing again. If you have an idea that you think will solve a problem, it doesn't have to be like a big grand, you're talking to 1 million people, you're talking to 1,000 people. It is as simple as having conversations within your friend circle, to understand if they're the type of people that the idea will solve their problem, right? Having that conversation and just picking their brain around, oh, okay, this is what I'm thinking, how if not don't say if I want to solve it like this, but like testing with the people in your immediate circle first. And you will find that if it is something that truly solves the problem, everybody wants to be part of the next Amazon or the next Netflix. So there are a lot of people that are out there that might not have a lot of money, but might have like the support in terms of giving you the network you need, or giving you the insights in terms of technology and all of that you need to help you take your idea from an idea to an actual product. So I would say start with the people in your circle first, and test it with them. If you find that people in your circle are not necessarily your target market, there are many ways you can run surveys. So while you're, when you're spending, what you spend time, like a lot of people spend a lot of time on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, while you're on there, put your survey out there and gather insights, like word your questions well. So I'll just put this here. So the Mom Test, that book by Robert Fitzpatrick, talks about how to talk to customers and learn if your business idea is a good one. Because sometimes, your family and friends might lie to you just because they want to make you feel good. But it's important to really test with your target customers. So define who the target customers are. So what's their age demography? What's their income bracket? What's their, you need to know who your customers are, and then try to test your solution with them as much as you can.
Okay, so what I understand from what you've been saying is that you can't run away from engaging with your stakeholders, really. You have to keep asking them, you have to keep testing. They seem to be the base for innovation.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have another question here. A situation where the employees are not motivated to innovate. How do I convince top management on the positive impact innovation?
Um, hmm. So that's a culture problem. And the best way to go about that is perhaps to do an industry analysis and position that with management. So you're in a particular sector, you're seeing all the things that your competition is doing, and you're seeing how your customers, perhaps your activity on customers is reducing and they're gravitating towards your competition. Is to motivate, should I say, motivate management by presenting the data. You know, data is the forward. You know, everybody's trying to make data. It is better to make decisions based on data than based on, there's instinct, but typically back your instinct with some data. So I would say motivates management with some real data showing how, you know, the lack of innovation around your products and services will impact your business 2 3 years from now. It can be estimations based on trends you've seen in the past. It doesn't have to be like, you know, you've done some complex math, but it could be estimations based on trends that you spotted if you're very like conversant with your industry, and position that with management. And hopefully like they can then do the work of trying to change the culture a bit, to be more open to hearing from employees, because employees that, so like your customer contact, or a lot of organizations, like especially the big ones, your customer contact center, your salespeople, they have so much knowledge and information about like your customer behavior that if you're not mining that information, you're really doing yourself as a business a disservice.
Okay. So quite a lot of questions coming in here. We will do well to answer all of your questions within the time for this webinar. Someone is asking here for you to repeat the name of the book. You made reference to a book. You can just come back with the name of the book.
Okay, it's right here. The Mom Test by Rob Fitzpatrick. How to talk to customers and learn if your business is a good idea when everyone is lying to you.
Okay. Okay. That'll be a very interesting read. Okay, and we have a comment here as well. So somebody here has said, I think it is good to pilot your idea on a small scale to identify lapses, dialogue with facts from the existing situation on the issue. We thank you very much for your comment. We do appreciate that you're able to tell us what you think about what we're saying. So let me just for those who are joining us now, we've been discussing innovating for the future. For me, it's been a very interesting discussion, and we have Furo here, Furo Apiafi. She's an innovation manager at Stanbic IBTC, and she's been sharing with us from her wealth of knowledge. So I would ask you this I know we've talked about the role that government has have to play in all of this. Now, what sort of policies should the government be coming up with to check insecurity? So I remember one time we had a discussion with one of our clients, and he told us a bit about how his idea was stolen. So what sort of policies should he to protect innovation business?
Okay, so I mean, in terms of policies, it's just to, you know, set the environment for people to actually register their intellectual property pretty easily, and, you know, be able to track that. So if I register something as my unique idea and I want to challenge someone to court, there's like a registry somewhere that I can, you know, call on. But we find that typically people are like hide their ideas and hide their solutions because you're scared of other people stealing it. So people are not very quick to, you know, register these intellectual property. So I would say, like, when you have an idea, if possible, consult a lawyer. We all have lawyers in our friend circle, and see the best way to get that IP registered if possible, or find ways to just protect yourself when you are engaging with people. And then, yeah, that's really it.
Okay. So let me quickly ask this question from one of our participants. So this person says, I think innovation is hard. How do I form and manage innovation teams? Because I need innovative ideas to make my business grow. How do I form? I think the main question here is, how do I form teams?
Okay, so forming teams. So I spent some time at the beginning of this session talking about the right attitudes for innovation. So in terms of forming a team for innovation, it's important to understand the characters of the people in the team, because you want people that are open to exploring, ambiguity and playing around in things that have never been done before. So it's a very uncomfortable place to be. And you need people that are like bold enough to deal with that. You need people that are, if they're stuck, they're not afraid to ask for help. They're not afraid to say, I don't know. They're not afraid to go on Google and do a simple search, because you find that some people don't do things as simple as going to search on Google when Google has almost all the answers to your problem. If you're having an issue with your laptop, for instance, and you go on Google, you will find that a lot of people that have had a similar problem, and you see discussions around that problem. So you need to ensure that in putting together a team for innovation, like, the characters of the people is very, very important. So you want people, like, I'll just summarize, you want people that are curious. And the way you test curiosity, ask them random questions, see whether they're willing to admit when they don't know stuff, or they just ramble on and give answers that lead nowhere. People need to be willing to admit that, look, okay, this one I don't know, let me go and do some work and come back to you. That's the right attitude, especially if you're working in innovation. Yeah.
Okay. So I think people still didn't get the name of the book. So if you can just write that in the chat room, if you can just write that in the chat box, so that people can assess the name of the book. I think that's because people can't see the slides anymore. Okay, so I'll just read this comment from one of our participants while you are doing that. Disrupting the market comes in various forms, but depending on the market. The popular strategies are unique service or product, drastic slash of pricing in competition, changing what the market terms normal. Okay, so we're grateful you're able to put that discussion, that comment here. It shows us that you are part of what we are discussing here, and we're glad you're offering your comments on this. Thank you very much. Okay, so let me just quickly thank our participants who are joining us on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sending us your questions. I do hope we'll be able to answer all of the questions for our time for this discussion elapses. So how can there's another question here. How can I quickly turn a good idea into a good business?
You say, how can I turn a good idea into
a good idea into a good business?
I mean, if you're meeting customer needs, so after you have the idea, so I think a lot of people have ideas. When you've built a product or a service, it's very important to now engage the right people to help you set up the right structures for your organization, because the organization is only as good as the structures you put in place to ensure that, you know, customers are well protected, your employees are well protected, you know. So yeah, I say after you have your idea and you've, you know, fine-tuned it, you've come up with a solution, you've tested with customers and all that, and you have a working product that you want to launch into the market, it is then important to do the work of actually setting up the right structures in an organization. Yeah.
Okay. So the name of the book, let me just read that out. The name of the book is The Mom Test. So Furo has put that in the chat box for everyone to see. You can just look at it, Mom Test. All right, there's another question here. Right after this question, while we're discussing this question, we would launch the poll results. We'll launch the poll results. Okay, so how is innovation different from creativity in the current situation? How is innovation different from creativity?
Creativity is a key ingredient for innovation. If you want to innovate, you have to be creative. So Blockbuster, for instance, had been in the business of renting movies for customers because people were getting online more and more, and people were spending more and more time on their phones, on their laptops, and, you know, they did not spend time to say, okay, how do we, you know, create a new solution that still serves our customers and keeps us in business. So my response to that is that creativity is a key element of innovation. It's, you can't have them apart. There's like no difference. You can't have innovation without creativity.
Okay, yeah, you can't have innovation without creativity. So another quick question here is, does innovation have to be disruptive? Must it disrupt the market? So just to elaborate, when the GSM came, MTN was selling SIM card very expensive, and then one day Globacom came and sold the SIM card for ₦1, and it just took a large chunk of the telecom market. Now, does innovation have to be disruptive? Must it be disruptive for it to be termed innovation?
No, it doesn't have to be disruptive. So when you look at innovation, there's a scale, there's an entire scale. So it could be things as simple as reviewing an existing product or service, reviewing an idea. The important thing is that you are being creative about how you're serving your customers, and you're truly putting the customers at the center of what you're doing. If you look at disruptive innovation, there are only a few. So you look at different industries, like if you look at the whole retail sector, the biggest guy is Amazon. You know, there are not many Amazons in the world. If you look at the entertainment sphere, there's only one Netflix. You know, Amazon Prime has come on board and all of that, but then, you know, Netflix is still known as the main disruptor. So disruptive innovation is great, but it doesn't happen as often as, you know, people probably expect. So it's important to just focus on, look, I am serving my customer as best as I can. I'm leveraging technology to ensure that I am like accumulating as much data about my processes, about my customer feedback and all of that, and I'm using that to constantly improve my service offering. Yeah.
Okay. So there are quite a lot of comments here. I believe we can see the poll results now. So I'll just quickly talk about the poll, and then we'll talk about some of the comments we are seeing here, and then we would wrap up. So we have 41% of the people here executive. The managers, those who the innovation is the manager level is 26%. Professionals here are 22% and administrative 11%. So 100% of everybody here is agreeing that innovation is priority in their organization. So 74% of employees here get involved in the process of innovation in their organization. And 52% of our participants here believe that their management know how to identify, develop, and manage the innovation processes. Okay. So 52% of our participants here also say yes to the fact that their organizations are implementing innovative ideas and that they are successful. Okay. And lastly, about 59% of our participants here are saying that no, they don't have an innovation evaluation system. Now that's critical. And let me just quickly ask, should there be a process for evaluating innovation in an organization? Should there be a process?
Yeah, there has to be a process for evaluating innovation so that as an organization, you even know where to focus your resources. Because what happens is when you have built a culture of innovation, you then find that employees will constantly be battering you with ideas and thoughts on how to improve stuff. So then you have to have some laid down criteria that as a business, this is what we consider in terms of what we consider as priority for innovation for us, and find, okay, so this your idea, how does it fit into this predetermined criteria that we have, and then take that forward to then ensure that, okay, as employee A, you submitted this idea, it is priority for us, and then we'll take it forward into whatever product updates we're going to be working on. So yeah, it's very, very, very important to have like a laid down method for evaluating these things so that you also don't discourage employees, because if they keep submitting ideas, pardon?
No, go ahead. Please.
Okay, yeah, I said that it's also important to have these criteria laid out so that even when people submit ideas, if it's not taken forward by the organization, they will understand why when they see, the other ideas that were submitted, and they will be challenged to do better next time. So it's very good to have like the laid down criteria, have like an open method of sharing these ideas. So if you have, a simple way that Google did it at the beginning was having just a pin board in the organization where if you had a problem that you wanted someone to solve, you just pin it on the board and somebody will pick it up and solve it, for the customer. So it's having an open way for all employees to see that, okay, this is our innovation funnel, these are the things being considered, and this is why this has priority over the other.
Okay, so are there any resource that businesses here can leverage in designing, so everyone is not a management consultant who probably would have the expertise on developing this tool? What would you advise in terms of resources where people can leverage to design this evaluation process?
So I can share some stuff that can perhaps be shared with everyone, because I believe everyone submitted their email addresses. I can share some stuff that can share with everyone after the session. But it's just really considering your business priorities, and weighing the solutions in line with what your business goals are.
Okay. Let me thank our participants, those who are joining us from Facebook and YouTube, for all of your contributions. We are seeing your comments. And I had said that I would read out some of those comments. And so someone here has written creativity equals develop something new, my thoughts. And then someone else says the power of innovation is that it can sometimes come simple and cheap, and it could be easily ignored until applied. It does not have to be complex to be an innovation. Okay. Now we have another question here, just as we are beginning to the process of wrapping up. What is your take on the blockchain technology? That's a question here.
Here to stay. How it is applied is a different conversation, but blockchain is here to stay. We're already seeing applications of blockchain in, for instance, the logistics industry. So typically, when you want to buy goods from abroad, you'd have to go through your bank to get Form M, get all these sort of documentation, and then pay it, and then send the copy to the shipper, send the copy to the third party in whatever country. But we're now seeing applications where on blockchain where, for instance, I think IBM is playing in that space where as a customer, I want to purchase something abroad and I log into this system that is powered by blockchain and then I upload all the required documents and it does the work of sending everything to everyone securely, so then there's no repetitive uploading and you sent the wrong document and all of that. It just simplifies things a lot and brings trust into the system. So I think blockchain is here to stay. The applications are all still quite early, apart from blockchain, apart from cryptocurrency, most applications are still in the early stages, but it doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon.
Okay. If you're just joining us, because some people are still joining us, we've been talking about innovating for the future. So in the beginning, we talked about the fact that a poll that was done or a survey that was done by PwC, which involved around 1,500 CEOs, showed that GDP growth was going to be low, and what is causing that view at the top is that it's uncertainty. A lot of CEOs are concerned how are they going to keep income coming into the business and then even achieving sustainability. And so we've been talking about innovating because if businesses don't innovate at this time, then they're going to die out. And so we've had Ms. Furo Apiafi discussing if this critical topic with us, and she's had to share quite very many insightful information here. So, like we said in the beginning, these recordings are going to be shared on Facebook and YouTube after now. So if you missed out on our earlier discussions, you do well to access this recording on our Facebook channel after now. So we're wrapping up, and I'll just ask Furo to, what would be your advice to SMEs? First of all, what would you advise SMEs on innovation?
Okay, so for the SME, what I would say is that SMEs still have the benefit of small, so ensure that whatever you're doing, find the easiest way to get it done, leveraging and as much as possible leverage technology, because most technology applications right now help you capture that very important customer data in everything that you're doing. So for SMEs, you're small, you have the chance to set yourselves up very nicely to be ready for the future. So yeah, leverage technology as much as possible, and ultimately in delivering to your customers, find the easiest route to meet that customer need. And it doesn't have to be expensive. The technology solutions don't have to be expensive. Yeah, there are lots of options out there.
Okay. So I don't know if that was the case for other people, but I hardly heard what you said. So if you can just come back with that, perhaps a lapse in IT.
Okay, so what I said was that for SMEs, SMEs still have the benefit of size. They're still small, so wiggle room, like to make changes is not as difficult. So while you're still small, ensure that you're setting up your processes and you're leveraging technology as much as possible, because the businesses that will be relevant in the next 5-10 years from now are businesses that have set up their foundation in such a way that they have very good ways of collecting customer data and leveraging that data to make, decisions in terms of navigating the future for their business.
Okay, so what would be your advice for the large businesses?
For large businesses, so I'll just refer to this poll. I find that typically management gets, if management and executive level feel like they run an innovative organization, but when you dig deep and talk to employees lower in the hierarchy, you'll find that a lot of them are frustrated because things are not moving as quickly as they want. Technology within the organization is not as advanced as they would like. What I would advise to large corporates is take the time out to, before you even start engaging external customers, engage your internal stakeholders. So your employees that are the, digital natives, so the millennials, a couple of millennials, and the Generation Z, because Generation Z are in the workplace now, right? So engage your internal stakeholders and actually get critical feedback from them, especially the people that are your customer touch points. So your customer facing people, they have so much knowledge about how you could potentially change the game in your business, but you haven't set up the right processes to gather that feedback and that information and use that to help navigate the world of business.
Okay, so we're just going to wrap up now. Thank you very much, key discussants, for sharing your knowledge and experience with us. We believe that our participants have taken away key learning from the discussion today. Let me also thank our participants for joining us and making the discussion quite interactive. I mean, we might as well be discussing with ourselves, but you have helped to make our interactions, our discussion today very interactive, and that's something we really appreciate. Like I had said before, the recording will be shared on our social media handles. You can also refer to it after now and get more information in case you missed something. Even now, some people are still joining us, and it's unfortunate we have to end so that people can also get on with other things. So let me just quickly remind you of our upcoming events. This webinar is a monthly event which holds every third Tuesday in the month. Please do well to join us for our webinar in August. We promise it's going to be quite engaging and interactive as this one. Also, CBN Agribusiness Small and Medium Enterprise Investment Scheme training will commence on July 27th and will last for 5 days. We invite you to register if you need to scale up your business. Do well to talk to us. The flyers are also out there on our Facebook page. kindly check and enroll if you have to. Also, Wider Perspective hosts annual conferences to promote SME development. And we've had the first one. We had the first one in June, on June 25th. That was the Abia SME Forum, and it was quite interesting, very interesting discussion also took place in that conference. So the next one is going to be the 5th Business Linkages Forum, which is coming up in August 27th. So please block your diaries and do well to attend. The link is out there also on our social media handles. You can access all the information you need. We will be displaying our contact details right after now. Do well to reach us if you need to. So thank you very much, Furo, for being a part of today's discussion. Thank you for all the information shared, and thank you, our participants, for joining us. We're really glad you were able to. Thank you very much. All right, so that's also officially coming to the end of this webinar series. Thank you.